Why does it always seem like there are natural disasters all over the world? The honest answer is that it's because they are. Because of how our planet is and how much weather and chaos there is in its patterns, there are a lot of ways for natural disasters to form, and some of them can literally come out of nowhere to blindside you. So allow us to show you 10 natural disasters that are just waiting to happen. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 9. Wildfires. This first entry is oddly poetic due to the beginning of 2020. There are plenty of ways that a fire can start naturally in the world, not the least of which is a lightning strike to the ground of a grassy or forest area. Another one that can't be ignored is simply the sun roasting an area in such a way that fires start after a certain amount of baking. In fact, many consider naturally occurring wildfires as nature's way of resetting an area so that it can regrow in an even better way. And as recent years in United States history can attest to, wildfires are some of the most dangerous things around, for if they are not contained in a quick and methodical manner, they spread with such intensity and ferocity that whole forests, whole towns, and more can be burned to the ground. The state of California has had the dubious honor of being hit with many wildfires over the past decade, and it's all because the sun heated up a dried out area, causing the fire to start. Plus, as noted earlier, 2020 had major wildlife incident occur via the Australian wildfires that ravaged the outback and threatened all sorts of wildlife. These are truly events that can happen all over the world and at any time should the right mixture of events occur. Number 8. Blizzards. Appropriate for the winter season, a blizzard may not be the most fierce or terrifying thing to be per se, but if you're not prepared for it, it will cause you problems. Blizzards vary depending on the region you're in, but when they happen, watch out. Ironically though, blizzards can actually mean various things. Most people think it's just heavy snow, but it's more than that most times. The definition of a blizzard notes not only heavy snow, but wind that helps carry it. That can create whiteout conditions and make blizzards even more scary. Obviously, in tropical areas, blizzards don't happen, but in colder regions like Russia, Siberia, and Alaska, they can happen often and make people a bit wary of living there. Number 7. Sinkholes. Sinkholes are something that can definitely happen at any time, and that is why they are dangerous. But that begs the question, how does a sinkhole form? Well, it literally has to do with the earth under your feet. The ground you stand on, regardless of whether it's natural or not, has a certain strength to it. When natural dirt and other elements get weakened to a certain point to where they can't hold any more weight, it collapses upon itself. And when it does this, a literal hole starts to form in the ground. It gets bigger and bigger until the weakened dirt is basically all out of the way. By that token, a sinkhole can be very small or incredibly large and deep. As numerous videos have shown, sinkholes form randomly out in nature, in big cities, and more. Sure, it's unlikely that one might form where you are right now, but it's not as impossible and unlikely as you expected beforehand. Number 6. Floods. Here's another anytime one that many of you have likely seen, mainly because when the rains come down, sometimes the floods come up, and there's nothing that we can do about it. Plus, flooding can happen from lakes and rivers overflowing or just the ground itself becoming oversaturated and thus the water levels rising. Flooding is a serious issue, and it can cause a lot of damage to houses all over when severe enough. Not to mention, it can make traveling nearly impossible in some areas. Floods have been known to get so bad that they can rise to the level of roofs on houses, if not submerge them completely. So, do be mindful if a flood warning goes out. Number 5. Volcanoes. Volcanoes are a very interesting thing, mainly because they help make many islands that we inhabit today, and while we are grateful, we also need to be mindful. We've all heard stories of volcanoes erupting, but witnessing one, well, that's an entire other matter. From the rocks and smoke that are sent into the area, to the lava that pours out, it is a terrifying thing. Lava can be 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that means it can melt just about anything that it touches, including humans, near instantly. Now, if you are curious as to how this is an anytime natural disaster, that's because volcanoes can truly erupt anytime they want to, and there's truly no way to prevent them from erupting. Not to mention that many are dormant volcanoes out there that people have to monitor because of how likely they are to erupt again. and when one erupts, you'll hear about it. Number 4. Tsunami. The ocean is a beautiful yet dangerous place, and tsunamis are the perfect proof of the latter, as they are almost always caused by events underneath the surface of the ocean, and thus rarely can we detect them before they form. Tsunamis are also known as tidal waves, massive columns of water that rise up from the surface and move in a direction with momentum that cannot be stopped. Just as terrifying, these monster waves can tower over many buildings depending on their creation. The Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 was 30 feet tall, and some have been documented to reach up to 100 feet. The size of these waves can cause unparalleled destruction and cross whole oceans. The 2004 tsunami went through 14 countries before finally dying out, and it took over 227,000 people with it. The one that hit Japan literally washed away people and homes back into the ocean. These are not things to mess with in any way. Number 3. Earthquake. Earthquakes are caused most times because of shifts in the tectonic plates that make up the continents of our world. The plates shift and jive and collide with one another, causing the surface to shake uncontrollably in certain areas depending on the energy released by the shifting. Here's the depressing thing. Earthquakes happen more than you think, as the plates and fault lines are honestly moving quite a bit all the time. However, the reason we don't feel it is that the energy isn't enough to register. That's why we have the Richter scale to see how powerful they are. We've all seen videos of how powerful these earthquakes can be. They even had to remake the building code for houses so that they could better withstand the power of earthquakes, as they usually are able to literally bring the house down. And if you live near a fault line, an earthquake is quite literally in your future, whether you like it or not. Number 2. Tornadoes. One of the most popular natural disasters in the world is a tornado, which is defined as a rotating column of air, and they can form instantly and then touch down on the ground. And when it does this, the wind picks up the ground and dirt and gives it its form. The real danger, though, of tornadoes is their size. For while it's true that some can be incredibly small and wispy, they can also be over a mile wide in length. At that size, with the power of its winds, as an F5 can have over 300 mile/hour winds, and you have a moving column of destruction. Now, there are some who would debate that they can happen at any time, but all you really need to make a tornado is the right weather conditions. And who can really predict the weather? Exactly. Plus, with all the various conditions all over the world, a tornado in some form or another is more likely than you expect. Number 1. Hurricane. Hurricanes are by and large something that whole nations fear, because unlike most of these natural disasters, we can detect them from pretty far off. We can tell just how massive they are from a distance, and there's nothing that we can do about it save running for cover. Hurricanes, also known as typhoons, monsoons, cyclones, and more, form over the ocean, and they can be massive in width. The incredible wind power mixes with the waters of the ocean, and they seem to always know which direction land is. And when they hit, they are truly devastating. For proof of this, just look at the United States in recent years, where Hurricane Katrina nearly wiped New Orleans off the map, and they are still recovering from it. Or in 2017, when Hurricane Harvey nearly flooded all of Houston, Texas. Plus, there are certain countries who know how to expect things like this and have to prepare for them year-round just in case. True, there is hurricane season, but like any real season, they go longer than expected and arrive sooner or later than you might think. So what do you think? What do you think of these natural disasters that can happen at virtually any time around the world? Were you surprised by how many natural disasters are able to form in the right conditions? Which of these do you personally fear in the areas where you live? Have you experienced any of these up close? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.